We have the personal dictionary or personal vocabulary dictionary for 3.3. The vocabulary for this, let me refresh, start over so we can see all the pictures. Yeah. Okay, good. So here we have all the pictures. So this is the dictionary page, and at the bottom, if you go down, is the vocabulary. So I want to go over the vocabulary for physics chapter 3.3, and this is the weekly vocabulary in English. The first vocabulary word is molecule. This is a molecule. It is the smallest piece of a substance. And the more energy a molecule has, the faster it can move or vibrate. The less energy, the slower it will move. And I want you to say molecule. So go ahead and say molecule to yourself. You can say it quietly, you can say it loud. That's okay. The next word is average kinetic energy. And this is how fast a molecule moves around. It is the energy of a molecule, and it is the energy the molecule has from moving, from movement. Okay? So if a molecule moves fast, it has a high or large kinetic energy. If a molecule moves slow, it has a low kinetic energy. And actually, fast means it has a high temperature, and slow means it has a low temperature. Let me make this larger so we can see it here. Fast, high temperature, slow, low temperature. Hot, when we have a high temperature, hot means when a substance has a large amount of heat energy or thermal energy. That means the molecule moves around fast. I want you to say hot. Say hot to yourself. Just practice saying hot. Cold is when a substance or an object has very little heat or thermal energy and the molecules move around slowly. Okay, so they're moving around slow in the substance, cold. Or if it's a solid, maybe they're not moving around, maybe they're just vibrating a little bit in one place. Solid is when the molecules of a substance are stuck together, so they're stuck, they're trapped, and they cannot move around. So they cannot move from one place to another. They can only vibrate or shake a little bit in place. That's solid. So I want you to say solid. Say that to yourself. Liquid is when you give a solid a little bit more energy. It goes to a liquid. And the molecules in a liquid, they are not stuck together. They can move around freely inside of the substance. They cannot leave. They will stay here, but they can move around. So they're dancing around inside the substance, inside the liquid. When you give a liquid more energy, I want you to say liquid. So go ahead and say liquid, liquid. And this is liquid. And when you give a liquid more energy, it becomes a gas. So I want you to say gas. And a gas is when molecules, they are not stuck together and they can move freely in the environment. So they don't need to be close to each other. They can actually move out into the world and move around anywhere they want because they have a lot more energy now, so they can move with kinetic energy freely. Now let's go on to some words to describe changes in a material or changes in a substance. We use the word melt to describe when a solid turns into a liquid. I want you to say melt. It is when the heat energy of a solid increases, so you give the solid more energy, and it's so much energy that the molecules start to spread apart. They move apart and become a liquid. Freezing is another word. Freeze or freezing means when you have a liquid that becomes a solid. So what you do is you actually take the heat energy out of a liquid. So you decrease the heat energy of a liquid and you make it a solid. So the molecules stop moving around, they stay still, they connect together, and they become a solid. So the opposite of melting is freezing. Melting is to go from solid to liquid. Freezing is to go from liquid to solid. let's say evaporation. So evaporation or evaporate is similar to freezing and melting, but it is when a liquid becomes a gas. That is evaporation. That means you give a liquid more energy, the heat energy of a liquid increases, and it becomes a gas. That is evaporation. And now let's look at condensation. It is the opposite of evaporation. If you have a drink, a cold drink, and you see that there is water on the outside of the drink, that is called condensation. That is when the water in the air, the vapor, the water vapor in the air, touches a material and the gas loses heat energy, or the heat energy of the gas decreases and becomes a liquid. Okay, that's condensation. So I want you to say all of these words. So let's say condensation. And phase. Phase is the next word for the week. Let's say phase. Phase. So this is the state of matter or the state of a substance. In our world, matter can be a solid, a liquid, or a gas. And actually, there's a fourth phase that we're not really going to talk about in this physics class. It's called a plasma. But a phase is a state of matter of a substance, and it can be a solid, liquid, or a gas. And phase change, so I want you to say phase change, is when a substance changes from one form to another. So when you go from a liquid to a gas, or when you go from a solid to a liquid, this is a change, and we call that a phase change. So for example, when a liquid changes to a gas, this is a phase change. Let's say cooling. Cooling. To change phase, you need to cool or warm. Cooling is when the heat energy of a substance decreases. So when the heat energy of a substance decreases, that is cooling. Warming is when the heat energy of a substance increases. So heat energy of a substance increases. You give it more energy, more heat energy, it is going to warm up or heat up. Okay? So we're done with the vocabulary. If you need the vocabulary in Spanish, I have it here in Spanish. If you go down, I have the vocabulary in Chinese. And if the translation's not perfect, then use Google Translate to translate. I'm going to start one of the rows for the personal dictionary just to show you how to do this. What I want you to do is look at this picture, and I want you to identify which vocabulary word this represents. And now for this first one, it's actually pretty easy because I have the word here. It is solid. And if I go down and I look for the picture of solid, go down, solid, solid. Yep, here's solid. And so I want to translate that to my home language. So let's see here. Solid, this is it, solido. All right, it's going to go up here. I'm going to enter in down here the translated version. So it's might get difficult to type it in, but I'm going to fix this. Okay, so it's solid. In Spanish, that's sólido. I have the picture here. I want to, in this place, put the connected words that are underlined and bold. So for solid, sólido, those words are the most important words in the definition are molecules stuck together, molecules, okay, stuck together, cannot move, and freely, okay? And what I want to do now is create, in this space, I want to create my own definition in my words using the vocabulary word, the connecting words, all of them, And I want to do that in my own words. I don't want to copy the definition. I want to create my own definition so I know that I understand it. And so I can say, well, I know that solids are when molecules, so I'm just going to start to use these words, are, oh, and I spelled molecules wrong, so I'm going to click molecules, are stuck together and they cannot move around freely. Okay, so that's my definition. I processed. What you are doing here is you are processing the information so your brain understands it. You are connecting the vocabulary word with the most important words that you should understand to really get a feeling or get an understanding of what that word means. Okay, and you're going to repeat that for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 is the last one. And when you're finished, you can submit that to me, Dr. Gomez.